Did Joe Schoen give a hint as to who the Giants are drafting? Welcome back to the Empire State Sports Report. I'm your host, Adrianna. Let's talk about some Giants updates because this week is the NFL owners meeting down in Florida, where they also have the GMs and the coaches speak. So Joe Schoen and Brian Dable both spoke to the media. So we're going to talk about some of the highlights. Real quick, they also did re-sign linebacker Ty Summers. So I'm sure you guys will remember he was on the team last year, mostly a special teams guy, but he did have some nice tackles during when he played defense. So the thing that I will say about something that has really been going on during this free agency is they have focused a lot on special teams. And I think they had some sort of inkling that the NFL was going to be changing the rules again, and they needed to make special teams a bigger focus. I also think part of that is the fact that special teams has been garbage for the last few years, and they decided, let's finally do something about it. What a concept. Anyway, so I like some of the moves that they made. Now, one of the things that we have to talk about, I think this is the most important rule that I've seen so far that's come out of the owners' meetings, is they are changing the touchback spot from the 30-yard line to the 35-yard line. So that means in the span of 2 years, from 2023 to 2025, they have gained 10 yards. It used to be the 25-yard line. Now it's a 35-yard line on returns. So what I have to say about this is if the Giants can't score touchdowns now, we're doomed. We're never scoring any touchdown again, because another 5 yards of field position, like, make it easier. Why don't you? And I know that every single yard is hard to get in the NFL. It's not hard for a lot of teams. It's very hard for the Giants. We know this. And when you talk about a team who struggles in the red zone and struggles to move the ball down the field, 5 yards may as well be a lottery ticket to them at this point. So I think it's going to make a big difference for them. And I hope for all of our fantasy sakes and for the sake of the Giants and this team this year that it does help us all a lot, because it would be nice. So that, I think, was the most important rule that came out of it. Let's talk about what Joe Schoen said, because he actually said some pretty interesting things, and I was happy to hear from him. So let's talk about the quarterback situation, first of all. So when it comes to Russ Wilson and Jameis Winston, he basically said that, he spoke very highly of the veteran quarterbacks. He said that since the years that he's been the Giants GM, they have dealt with 7 different quarterbacks because of injuries. So he felt like getting a veteran backup was very important. And he also said that, they don't want to be forced into picking a quarterback in the draft if they don't love one. So that tells me they are not picking Shedeur Sanders at 3 if he is on the board. So with that being said, I think that they did a nice job of protecting themselves. He said that they offered Russ Wilson a contract the day he was in the building, and that the only reason why it took a bit longer for him to actually sign it was because they were negotiating. So that also says to me that this whole Giants are sitting around twiddling their thumbs waiting on Aaron Rodgers was BS, which I love. Thank God. Like, when we talk about this organization and how a lot of us think it's a little bit of a shit show at times, the fact that they weren't sitting around waiting for Aaron Rodgers makes me feel a hell of a lot better. I don't know about you guys, but I know most of us are thrilled that Aaron Rodgers is not our quarterback. And to hear the fact that on top of that, they weren't sitting around waiting for him all of March, I like that. I'll take it. So he did also say that Russ Wilson is going to be the starter, which I don't think is a surprise to anyone. I still would like to see a battle. Like, I would like to see the best man win during camp. And as someone who goes to a lot, if not all, of the training camp practices, I do want to see Jameis Winston with Malik Neighbors. Like, doesn't that sound fun? Russ Wilson throws a beautiful deep ball, and, Brian Dable even talked about that, and we'll get into that later. But I love the idea of getting to see a competition between the quarterbacks, because we have not seen it since Daniel Jones has been on the team. I haven't even seen it since Eli was on the team. It's been a long time. So let's make them battle it out. And the thing about Russ's contract too, and even Jameis's, is both of theirs are very incentive heavy. So I know Joe Schoen gets a lot of shit for the Daniel Jones contract, which is warranted. But the thing that I want to say is that I do feel like he's finally learning, because the fact that he paid Daniel Jones $40 million 2 years ago, and now he is paying 2 veteran quarterbacks a total of $14 million guaranteed this year, while Daniel Jones is making $14 million guaranteed with the Colts in 1 year. Listen, I have to give credit where credit is due, because he did a really nice job with the contracts, and I think he's done a nice job with the the cornerback and the safety, some of the other contracts that they made during free agency. So I think that he's learned his lesson, and I like some of the moves, especially with the contracts that they have done. So spoke very highly of the quarterback, said that obviously he has done a lot of research on both of them and he liked what they both bring to the table. Specifically mentioned explosive plays. He talked about the fact that Russ Wilson has a ton of experience in the league. On top of that, he has a lot of experience winning in the league after winning a Super Bowl. And he talks a lot about leadership and was saying that with Russ Wilson specifically, he loves the leadership aspect that he brings to the table. And he said that he's really able to back it up, because he's got wins behind him. So I thought that was interesting because I kind of was like, is that like a dig at Daniel Jones? In the sense that I mean, I get what he's saying. Like, it's like you're not going to listen to a salesperson give you advice if they have no sales, So like, I get it. But anyway, I kind of was like, ooh, is he pointing fingers there with TJ? I don't know. Probably not, but you never know with these guys at this point. Coffee break. But what else did Schoen say that I think was interesting? So anyway, I think that they're going Travis Hunter at 3, and this is why. When he talked about some of the defensive players like Dable and Javon Holland, he also talked about some of the guys that he drafted, as in Tyler Nubin, Andrew Phillips, and Tay Banks. He mentioned 2 things specifically with the defensive players and said that they both have instincts and good ball skills. And those were the 2 things that were big reasons as to why he drafted those players and to why he brought those players in this spring. And I thought that was really interesting because I was like, look at who's going to be on the board at 3. They don't want to force the quarterback. And you look at Travis Hunter, who has both of those things. I think they think that Abdul Carter is probably not going to make it to them at 3, which is probably a possibility at this point. You never know with the Browns, but it's a possibility. So I think their plan is to take Travis Hunter. That's where I'm at. After that, that's my guess. He's got good instincts and good ball skills on both sides of the ball. What more do you want? So anyway, that's what I think they're going to do. He also, when he mentioned leadership, he also talked a lot about Greg Van Roten and said that he was very happy that they ended up bringing him back for a couple of reasons. One of them was the fact that they're finally going to have some continuity with the offensive line. It's going to be the same starting offensive line that it was this time or last year before the season started. And talked about how he was happy with the offensive line before Andrew Thomas went down. And outside of the season opener against Minnesota, the offensive line was better. The run blocking was okay, not as great as probably anyone would like it to be, but the pass blocking was good. Daniel Jones had some time back there. He just didn't pull the trigger. So in theory, you bring those guys back and you've got 2 veteran quarterbacks who are not afraid to throw the ball, who can throw a really nice deep ball. And, we're going to have the time to make the plays. So you have to think, does it make you a little bit excited? Is there a little bit of potential there that maybe we will have an offense that will score more than 10 points? I mean, the 35-yard line, come on. We have to, right? We have to. Maybe. We'll see. Time will tell. But so when he talks about Greg Van Roten specifically too, he talked about, again, the leadership aspect. And one of the things that he noted was that GVR was very helpful to Jake Kubas. And the Giants love Jake Kubas. We have seen this, the way that they have brought him in, how he has played, and how they have spoken very highly of him. And the fact that they specifically mentioned that a guy like GVR took him under his wing, I thought that was really interesting. So leadership is a big thing. And I also think that they have made an effort to focus on this after guys like McKinney and Saquon have left. I think they did realize, and Daniel Jones, the fact that, maybe someone like Andrew Thomas is a bit of a silent leader. And, they have Brian Burns and Dexter on defense, but it sounds like neither one of those guys. And, is Brian Burns, first year with the team? Like, you're not going to step in here and try and run the show and step on other guys' toes like Dexter Lawrence. So anyway, I thought that was really interesting about that. So let's see. Does that wrap it up we have to talk about Evan Neal. How could I forget? This is the last thing, and then we'll move on to Dable. Schoen said that Evan Neal is open to moving to guard. And if you saw this on TikTok, I apologize for the repetition, but I don't give a shit, Schoen. You are the GM. You tell Evan Neal what to do. Good for him. You're not negotiating with a goddamn toddler, okay? The guy has experience playing guard. He has experience playing tackle. He has 3 years in the NFL of looking like a goddamn awful tackle, okay? I know it took you this long to figure it out. No one cares if Evan Neal is open to playing guard, okay? This isn't a negotiation. You are paying him millions of dollars. You drafted him 7th overall. He should be a fucking stud out there. And there is no excuse for that. So the fact that it's taking you 3 years, 1 year too long, fine. Give him 2 years at tackle. He sucked those 2 years. Okay. Last year, no excuse. There's no excuse, okay? So I'm glad that Evan Neal maybe humbled himself and decided, oh, maybe I'm not as good of a tackle as I thought I was. Maybe I'll try guard. Maybe I'll be better there. I don't care. No one cares what he wants. And you shouldn't really care what he wants either, right? Like, you run the show. You are the GM. You say, listen, buddy, sit down, have a one-on-one conversation. It's not working out for you at tackle. We're going to move you to guard. We're just going to try it, okay? Carmen Brasillo is going to help you. Get over it. It doesn't matter. Anyway, one of the things that Evan Neal was good at was run blocking. And one of the things that he was really not good at was being one-on-one on space. One-on-one battles, not good for him on the outside, clearly. So I think moving him to guard, like we all have bitched and moaned about for God knows how long at this point. I think it's about time that they finally admitted, okay, that they're moving him to guard. So we have that to look forward to when training camp rolls around. So glad that they finally decide to do that. Let's talk about Dable. Dable spoke to the media too. Some of the highlights here, I have some notes that he said. So obviously talking about calling plays was a conversation yet again. It's going to be a conversation until there is a decision made, which according to Dable, he wants to go through the OTAs and make a decision going into the preseason game. So that's the good news. We won't have to wait till week 1. We'll know, early August on who's going to call the plays. I personally feel like I want Mike Kafka to call the plays, but I don't think he's going to because I don't think Dable's going to let him. I think that Dable is not very humble, and that's fine. You don't have to be, but I think sometimes it's to his detriment in the sense that I think he thinks that he can handle everything. And I think that we saw last year, he's not really capable of that. And look, it's a new year. Maybe things are different, but you've got the same offensive staff. The only thing that's different is you have a new quarterback. So I don't know. In my opinion, I just give it back to Kafka. I think Dable has things he has to work on for him to be a better head coach. And I think that adding play calling on top of that is not a good idea. It wasn't a good idea last year, clearly. And I don't think it's going to be a great idea this year. I could be wrong about this. Time will tell. But I do think that I think it would be easier on everyone if Kafka calls the plays. Like I said, probably not going to happen, but TBD. Also, Dable gets the players in the building starting April 21st. So that's when that all is going to start. Also, there's been some stuff on Twitter, I'm sure people have seen, that Dable is not going to Colorado's pro day. And of course, it's made out to be this whole big thing. So Dable, of course, was asked about it and just said he doesn't typically go to pro days. He prefers the private workouts, particularly for the quarterbacks. And he's done a number of them, as in a number of private workouts. And honestly, I kind of don't really blame him. Like, if you're meeting with a quarterback in a smaller group, like we saw during Hard Knocks, right? At the combine, when they have those, it's not really one-on-one because there's 100 other people in the room, but it's in the sense it's a one-on-one meeting, really. Like it's really was between Dable and the quarterback and asking all these questions about the plays and this and that. So I will say that based on that, it doesn't surprise me that Dable prefers that. So I think it's fine. I don't think it needs to be a big deal. He was asked if he has a previous relationship with Russell Wilson. He said no, he's seen him afar. But he did say that Wilson is a phenomenal deep ball thrower, and they have some fast guys that are going to be able to take advantage of it. He specifically mentioned, of course, the tight end Theo Johnson, who they can get down the seam. So Theo Johnson could be a sneaky good pickup for your fantasy team, maybe a backup tight end. So I would hold on to him, not play him until, the Giants prove that they have a functional offense, but could be a sneaky pickup. Could be. Okay, so Dable also said that he watched every play of Wilson since 2012, which was more than 7,500 pass plays. Wanted to see what he did well, what he doesn't do well. He said he did a lot of work on him. He makes good decisions with the football. He's athletic. Obviously, he's a little bit older, so not as athletic as he was in 2013, 2014, but has the ability to use his legs and extend plays, which obviously we all know is a big part of this Giants offense. So in regards to the quarterback room, he said they have 3 quarterbacks in the room and we'll see what happens over the next few weeks in the draft. Like I said, I I really think they'll go more of a project quarterback. Also, another thing, last year I was so dead set. I'm like, there is a 0% chance they walk out of the draft without a quarterback. Surprise, surprise. No, am I getting the insane feeling that they might not draft a quarterback this year? Because here's the thing. Tommy DeVito has been on the roster now for a couple of years. They've gotten some play out of him. Look, ultimately, he's the third string quarterback. Is it worth taking a guy like Jalen Milroe and using an early or mid third round draft pick on a guy like Jalen Milroe, who you know is not going to see the field in 2025? And then in 2026, let's go hypotheticals for 1 second. Let's say they take Jalen Milroe. Him and Tommy DeVito are battling it out for the third string of the practice squad. I mean, I guess they might have to put Jalen Milroe on the roster just so no one steals him from the practice squad. Okay, so he's your backup. He's your third string. You don't want to see him at all this year, okay? No one does. So he sits for the entire 2025 season. 2026, you already have Jameis Winston under contract. You get rid of Tommy DeVito, which would not be a surprise. So let's say you have Jameis Winston and Jalen Milroe. What if Russ Wilson has an amazing year, okay? This is hypothetical, like I said. Russ Wilson has an amazing year. What if you bring back Russ Wilson next year? Now, you could always cut Jameis Winston, but then what are you doing with Jalen Milroe? Why are you taking Jalen Milroe, who's going to be your third string quarterback, when you know the 2026 draft is going to have better options? And if the Giants have a shit year, obviously you're not re-signing Russell Wilson, but then you're going after a better quarterback because Jameis Winston's not the future. And if Jalen Milroe at the end of 1 year as a third string, still you're like, need more time with him, which from everything that I'm hearing and seeing could be a possibility, then you just get a quarterback in 2026. What's the point of taking Milroe? You know? I mean, I would like it if they did. I'd like to feel like, all right, maybe we're going to watch Jalen Milroe in practice. This will be fun. But I don't know. I'm almost like, maybe it won't surprise me if they don't draft a quarterback again. Because last year I was so dead set and they didn't. And they're not going to take a quarterback, quotes from them, you know, that they're not in love with or sold on. I don't know, guys. Listen, it's April 1st. A lot can change, but you just never know. The Giants have done extensive work on a bunch of the quarterbacks. Dable said, I can speak, I promise. I'll keep our evaluations in-house right now. We've got 3 weeks to keep grinding on them. They're good players. They're good people. He talked about Paulson and Dabo, saying he's played in both systems, but is a good man corner. I thought this was interesting. He thinks the world of safety Javon Holland since he was coming out of college. He's an instinctive player, which is exactly what Joe Schoen said about him, and a crafty veteran. So, you know, it's funny because I've talked about this before, but I just really didn't think that they were going to go after a safety in free agency. And hearing how much Dable and Schoen really love this guy, they're going to give me high hopes for him. And I don't want it because I need to go into this season with extremely low expectations so they don't ruin my life again. But anyway, the last thing from Dable that I think is probably interesting, two more things actually, is that he said that obviously everything has to fall in line to get the quarterback you want, right? Last year it didn't work out with Drake May. This year it might not work out with Sanders if they even love him. And obviously that's the risk you take with waiting for 2026 to get a quarterback. So I understand that. But my thought process behind it is, if this season the team is functional, they win 7 games, you get what? The 9th pick next year. If obviously it depends on the other teams that are ahead of you and whether or not they need a quarterback. But let's say the Titans draft Cam Ward and they just have a mediocre season. He's a rookie quarterback. I think the Titans are a mess. Like, I would never start him week 1 anyway, but that's what they're going to do. And then, you know, they win 5 games. Like, you can trade with the Titans next year, right? Because they're not going for a quarterback. So there are going to be teams that are going to be open to trading in theory, and you hope that it works out and you can get a guy like Garrett Nussmeier. Obviously, you never know, but that's kind of what I'm thinking for 2026. Too early to tell. But last thing here is that he was asked about Travis Hunter, and he said, there's a lot of tape. It's really remarkable what he has done and the ability to perform at that level, not really getting a rest. He's been a fun player to evaluate and to meet and talk with. He's a heck of a player. That is the most I think I've ever heard Dable talk about anyone nicely. Like, even talking about Russ Wilson, you know, he said some good things about him and whatever, but that's my final prediction. I'm going to take the bet on it that the Giants take Travis Hunter at 3. Join me if you want. feel free to do whatever you want. But anyway, that's what I'm thinking. So later this week, I am going to have a guest on, waiting on some scheduling details, but stay tuned for that. And enjoy the rest of your week, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe, share with a friend if you made it this far. And, we'll be back because it's draft season and there's a lot to discuss. So happy April.